Hello everybody and welcome to chapter number 5, Elasticity. And this is the moment that a lot of you have been waiting for. This is exactly where macroeconomics and microeconomics are going to completely diverge from one another. So for the rest of the semester, we will be focusing in on microeconomic applications and concepts. And we do so by starting off by talking about elasticity, which is actually a pretty big extension of chapter number 3, where we talked about supply and demand. With chapter number 3, we know about the law of demand, we know about the law of supply, that when we change prices, quantity demanded and quantity supplied are also going to change as well. But now in this chapter, we're interested in putting specific numbers to that. So when we change prices, how much is quantity demanded and how much is quantity supplied actually going to change by as well. So here we're going to be introducing a big formula known as the midpoint formula, and also take a look at a few specifics of the law of demand and law of supply with elasticity itself. So here, as we're going to take a look at the chapter objectives, we're going to use elasticity, talk about a little bit about what it is. Then we're going to introduce what these elastic and inelastic numbers mean for us. We'll take a look on the demand side, where we take a look at the price elasticity of demand. And there's going to be a few other types of elasticities that we can also hone in on, such as the income elasticity and the cross price elasticity. We can also use elasticity to go ahead and take a look at some type of firm strategies. What should firms do in order to raise their total revenue? And that's all going to be based on the concept of elasticity. And then once we go ahead and do that, we're going to tie everything to the other side of the market, where we take a look at the elasticity of supply. So once again, the demand and supply sides of the market, we have very analogous, very similar sort of methodologies that we have on both sides of the market. And then finally here, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the impact of taxes. And remember that taxes affect the supply side of the market, so we'll see how elasticity affects the burden of taxation. So just getting us off started, we want to talk generally about what elasticity is. And it measures the responsiveness of one variable to changes in another. So all elasticity is we need to take two variables, and when we change variable A, we need to go ahead and see what the impacts are going to be on variable B. And it doesn't really what variables we go ahead and take a look at, as long as we change one variable and see exactly what the changes are going to be in the next variable, we know this is exactly what an elasticity is. For example, suppose that I increase my caloric intake by, say, maybe 13%. What is the resulting weight change for me going to be? This is exactly an elasticity. Another example, suppose that I decrease, or you guys decrease your social media consumption by 50%. What is the resulting change in your happiness? This is also an elasticity. We change variable A and see what the impacts are going to be on variable B. But because we are in economics, although these are things that we can go ahead and take a look at under elasticity, we want to focus in on supply and demand once again. So the main variables that we are going to be considering are the price effect on quantity demanded and quantity supplied. So here, this is probably the most, these are the two variables that we are going to be go ahead and focusing in on within this particular chapter most often. So the price effect on quantity demanded, and supplied, so slash supplied. So here we have two variables. What happens when we change the price? When we change the price, what happens to quantity demanded? When we change the price, what happens to quantity supplied? So this is the elasticity that we are going to be focusing in on within this section. So good example of this is, suppose that you go ahead, say, let's go ahead and take a restaurant, for example. So suppose that we have a 10% increase in the prices of food, say at the Cheesecake Factory. At the Cheesecake Factory with their enormously large menu. So here, a 10% increase in the prices of food at the Cheesecake Factory. This is obviously going to have an impact on quantity demanded and quantity supplied. So if we take you as a consumer in this instance, it definitely is going to change how much you eat there. So it changes how much you eat there. But now we want to see exactly how much are you actually going to change your eating habits, i.e. this quantity demanded. And in order to do that, we can go ahead and introduce the elasticity on the demand side, which is known as the price elasticity of demand. So here, very first elasticity that we go ahead and take a look at, denoted shorthand as ED, price elasticity of demand. It's equal to the percentage change in quantity divided by the percentage change in price. So here, this funky little symbol, this triangle symbol, it is just a delta. So it's the Greek symbol for delta and denotes some type of change, meaning that we need to be taking some type of differences between our quantities and differences between our prices. You might have seen this symbol in the fraternities or sororities on campus. That's all this really means. So delta, this triangle, just means change. And in terms of this price elasticity of demand, we can go ahead and introduce it a little more formally, a little bit more mathematically, and also in words so you get a better idea of what we're trying to do here. So very first elasticity that we take a look at is the price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand. And we want to be careful about what exactly type of elasticity that we are taking a look at, because there's 4 or 5 of them that we need to go ahead and see within this particular chapter. So here, ED, this is our price elasticity of demand, and the 2 main variables that we are taking a look at are changes in quantity demanded to a change in price. So here, this measures the responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in price. So here we have variable A, we're changing the price, to variable B, how much is quantity demanded going to change by? So only 2 variables. If we wanted to do this in words and not necessarily just in the mathematical formula, we have the percentage change in QD divided by the percentage change in price. Percentage change in price. So here, 2 variables, just basically a ratio, percentage change in price, percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. And there are a few things that we want to note about this elasticity of demand right here. In terms of the law of demand, so what did we say about the law of demand? We noticed that if we increase the prices, quantity demanded is going to fall, and if we decrease the prices, quantity demanded is going to rise. So that's just the law of demand in action. So because of this feature, this elasticity of demand is always going to be a negative number. So when we increase the price, we're always going to have a negative in the numerator. If we decrease the price, the numerator is going to be positive, but the denominator is going to be negative. So because this mimics the law of demand, this price elasticity is always going to be a negative number, which is why our final step in terms of any price elasticity of demand example or problem, we always need to take the absolute value. So don't forget the step. And this is only going to be a step that we see under the price elasticity of demand. We will not use this step in any other elasticity. So do be aware of this fact. And then a larger number in absolute value indicates greater elasticity. And we'll get a little bit more intuition and interpretation of this in the next section. So let's go ahead and do a very, very quick example of the price elasticity of demand using this equation right here. So very quick example, simple example. We'll work with a simple example here, but then open it up with the midpoint formula later on. Suppose that I tell you if the price, what good do we want to take a look at? So let's go ahead and take a look at tacos. So here, if the price of tacos, delicious tacos, increases by 5%, sales fall by 10%. And basically with these 2 numbers right here, it is enough information for us to find our elasticity of demand. So ED right here. So first of all, which one of these percentages is going to be our price which one of these percentages are going to be our quantity demanded, and which of them is going to be our price? So obviously the price is going to go on the bottom right here. So price of tacos increases by 5%. This is going to be a positive 5% on the bottom right here. So here, we can just go ahead and take it as a whole number. No need to sort of put it into decimal form, divide by 100. So just taking it as a number as such is good for this example. And then we want to go ahead and see what happens to percentage change in quantity demanded. This is where sales fall by 10%. So anytime we say sales, it's essentially telling that, hey, our quantity demanded, or exactly what we sold, has gone down. And once again, the positive and negative numbers are going to be apparent right here. So if sales fall by 10%, this is going to be a negative 10% right here. And you do want to be very, very careful to keep this equation very consistent. Always put the quantity demanded in the numerator, always put the price in the bottom. If you don't, you will get the reciprocal, and that will lead you to the incorrect answer. Our final step is to go ahead, simplify as much as we can. So 10 divided by 5, this will give us -2. Once again, this elasticity of demand, this price elasticity of demand, always a negative number. So our final step is to go ahead, take the absolute value, which will get rid of this negative number. So here, our price elasticity of demand is equal to 2. So one singular number, and this will give us a little bit of a good interpretation about what happens to the price, what happens to the quantity demanded for tacos when we change the price of them. So here, the interpretation of this 2 right here just tells us that for every 1% increase in price, the quantity demanded will fall. Quantity demanded will fall by 2%. So here, this is the interpretation that we get with this price elasticity of demand. For every 1% increase that we have in price, quantity demanded will fall by 2%. And remember, it does go both ways because it is talking about the law of demand. So for every 1% decrease in price, quantity demanded will increase by 2% as well. And notice here that when we are working with elasticities, this 2 right here is kind of unitless because we are working with percentages in the numerator and the denominator right here, but the interpretation is going to work with percentages right here. So for every 1% increase in price, quantity demanded will fall by 2%. And once again, we're sort of normalizing this number right here in order for us to get some type of workable prediction and interpretations with it. So you have a better idea and foundation of what the price elasticity of demand is, also the equation that is attached to it. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at what these specific numbers are going to mean for us. So what happens if we have a price elasticity demand of, say, maybe 0.5 versus a price elasticity demand of 3.5? What are the differences and what exactly does this mean for us in application? We'll break that all down in our next section.